Right, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our viewers around the globe, and welcome to another series of intimate conversations. And if you feel the nudge and you feel the desire to actually subscribe to my channel, YouTube channel, then I would love that very much. So today's guest, we've got Matthew Greenwood, and I'm really thrilled to be talking with Matthew. We've actually got an event coming up this weekend together online, but also Matthew is coming out to New Zealand, and so we're going to be talking about his New Zealand tour as well, so that will be wonderful. But welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're so welcome. And great work that you're doing. And I just, for those of you who don't know Matthew, I'm just going to introduce him now with his bio, and then we'll get into the chat.
Okay.
So Matthew's been involved with counselling, personal psychic and spiritual development and shamanic healing practices since 1990. He's actively involved in sharing his skills and knowledge through workshops, public speaking, personal mentoring, and counselling. He's based in South Australia and travels to Western Australia, Queensland, and New Zealand on a regular basis with his work. In his workshops and counselling, he teaches people how to be self-aware of anything on a negative or controlling level that is affecting them physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. This helps people to find freedom and a greater sense of connection with their potential, as well as being able to see beings who are here for our personal growth. Matthew also has the ability to see negative entities that sometimes link in with fears and anxieties within us, hampering our growth. Not only does he help to clear those negative energies, but he teaches practitioners and those who are interested how to do the same. We're all in the time where humanity consciousness is going through a renaissance period of spiritual evolvement. This means great change for humanity, both as a whole and also as individuals, in particular with the choices we make in reaching deeper into the understanding of who we really are as a species. This talk will help to bring many pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together from being grounded, spiritual development, holistic health, physical changes our bodies are going through, a more expansive understanding of our energy systems, and the growing extraterrestrial connections, which are part of our understanding of who we really are. Awesome.
What a
So,
mouthful.
I know. You have some interesting stuff to talk about with us, Matthew, though. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
So one of the first things I start with in our conversations is, were you a consciously aware child? Like how, at what age did it come in if you weren't? And how was that in the sense of the dynamics in your family, with or without that consciousness?
Sure. Good question. Consciously aware of anything spiritual, not that I remember, up until this all kicked in for me when I was 29. So I didn't have what I would have classified now as a spiritual experience, other than I've always been a deep thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Always knew there was something different about me, and not altogether I thought it was good to be sensitive back then, but knew I was different. But the other thing was there were the hints of there was something going on, because um, I used to think very differently to a lot of other people I knew in the way I'd look at life, and
Yeah.
that stood out. And I learned to keep my mouth shut quite a bit because I just didn't seem to fit in with a lot of people. And the other thing was, I always knew most of the time that I was being watched over. I didn't know what that was, what that looked like, but I used to race motorbikes when I was very young, and up until probably mid-20s. And this was off-road, and I used to get myself into all kinds of situations where I know that I should have either died or ended up in hospital in a big way.
Yeah.
and something would happen in that last second before impact, and the bike would just do something different. And I had no control over the bike, but it seemed to just move
Right.
I'm kind of come out of it scratching my head, thinking, what just happened then? Because I should have hit a tree or a big boulder or something,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen. So I knew something was going on, but I couldn't put my finger on it until I was 29. So when what happened when I was 29? So my background is furniture making, so I had my own business as a furniture maker,
Yeah.
and very grounded with that. I'm Taurian, which helps. And um, through my life, my family had been, I guess you could say, one of those families that you keep the peace in the family. Everyone wears a happy face, but no one talks about anything. So that was really difficult when I was curious, and I I was open in the beginning, but I learnt again to clam up and to
Mm.
otherwise you pay for it.
Yes.
And so this makes you retreat. There was also abuse through my life when I was between about 4 and 7. Um, didn't have a conscious memory of that until later, but I knew something had gone on. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then when this point in time when I was 29, I was in my workshop and I was just carving away at a table leg, and I heard this voice, and this voice wasn't inside my head, it was exterior to my head. And it felt like someone was standing right beside me, a male. And it was as clear and as loud as I'm talking now. So I couldn't miss it. There was no machinery on. It was
Right.
very, very calm. And he said, Matthew, there's more to you and there's more to life. You need to find it. And just those few words, it felt like I wasn't shocked, I wasn't surprised, but it's like someone turned a switch on inside me.
Mm.
Uh, Something activated inside me that made me look at my life, and something, little things that I'd never really looked at, like I've had in my early days anyway, reasonably interesting medical um, history. Between 2 and 9, I was hospitalized several times with bronchial asthma. At um, at 16, I got cancer. One of the doctors said I may only have 6 months to live, and I'm here. I'm not an apparition. Um, and then at 23, I got diabetes. And one thing, so this all came in when I heard that voice. But what I had never looked at was the time between each event. So between 2 and 9 is 7 years, 9 to 16 is 7 years, 16 to 23 is 7 years, and I was 1 year up from this next 7 year cycle. And I had never talked to anyone about cycles, but I knew in that moment that I was
Right.
running a cycle.
Yes.
And what I knew, and this came from deep down somewhere, um, that if I didn't change the way I was living, um, I wasn't going to get through the next cycle because I felt like something was brewing. And
Mm.
that I felt very disconnected, and marriage wasn't good, and life changed after that time.
Right.
Um, and I started to get into spirituality fairly quick, not having ever done anything. I hadn't put my foot in that door at all, really. Went and got a reading. Really great guy that did it. He um, he basically said a lot of things to me, and even down to a phrase that only I'd never mentioned to anyone, uh, and it would happen at certain times that were fairly impactful in my life. And it was just a very simple phrase, and I've never read the Bible, I'll be honest, but the meek will inherit the earth. And I mean,
Mm.
he just pulled that out of thin air, and I thought, okay, we're onto something here. I don't know what, but we're onto something. But he went on to just talk about what my a little bit into my future. Suggested a meditation group to go to. I went along to that. With the first night I was there, I started seeing shadows moving around in the circle with my eyes closed. I opened my eyes and I could still see the shadows moving around, which was a
Mm,
new thing for me. Um, then, and that continued. And then at about 2 months of being in this meditation group, the TV screen came on in my head and I started seeing guides. Um, and that was really interesting process to go through because that's been, I guess you could say, a consistent with me right from the beginning. And it's been a fantastic process to be working very consciously with guides because
mm,
they're not there to mess you around. They're there to help you to reach your potential. That's the
yeah.
whole reason they're there. And so they've generally got a lot to say. They're
Mm,
not going to obviously do it for you, but they'll guide you, which is what they are. And
yes.
so it was just a big opening up from there. Shamanism hit me. It's funny, I've talked to a lot of people that get connected with shamanism, and um, generally you don't find it, it finds you.
Yeah.
And um, it did at a particular time, and this new guide came in very consciously and took me through a process to help deal with dark energy. And there was just a series. It's like I was in a classroom for about 2 months,
Mm,
and every week I would have a new, different um, process I'd have to go through to learn these different ways to deal with dark energies, also manipulative people that are projecting energy, and literally feeding off these clients that would come to see me off their life force.
yeah.
And so it was pretty heavy stuff, but it was funny. I never had any fear with this because I wasn't really connected to religion or teachings that promoted fear.
Yeah.
And so it was just like I was stepping into a new world.
Mm,
I knew these guides were here to help me, and I had some skills on how to keep my energy fairly stable and strong. Um, but they taught me more of how to do that. And I've learnt over the years better ways as energy changes,
yeah.
which I know is what we're going to be talking about Saturday.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, so that's been a huge process, which ended up leading me to America. Um, and the synchronicity, I just love the synchronicity, how
yeah.
things happen. This couldn't have been planned any better, how I got there. So I was in a on again, off again relationship for about 6 years. We were breaking up, getting back together, breaking up. It was driving us both nuts. And we're both counselors at the time,
Yeah.
of course. And anyway, we both agreed that we needed to go and see someone uh, that we didn't know that could be recommended to us. So we found this woman. She was fantastic. She helped us both to go our separate ways with um, peace and harmony and everything.
Mm,
And but then I thought, well, I'm getting a bit out of this, so I stayed along for a couple more sessions. And on the last session, she looked at me. She said, "So Matthew, we've you've moved through a lot. It's like you've got a fresh slate. What goals have you got? What would you like to do with your life from here besides doing your spiritual work, which I know you love?" And I looked her straight in the eye and I said, "I want to go to America." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, where in America?" And I said, "Look, of all places, South Dakota, because most people want to go to New York or California or something."
mm,
Um, and she looked at me really deeply this next time and she said, "Where in South Dakota?" And I said, "Either," because I'd done a little bit of research, and I said, "Either Pine Ridge or Rosebud Indian Reservation." And she was on an office chair with casters on, and she slid a chair back and just laughed her head off. And she said, "My grandfather is full-blood Oglala Sioux and lives on Pine Ridge."
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So she just gave me all of this information about the reservations up through the mid north of the States and into Canada. And I just phoned and rang, or sorry, sent letters, and until I got a connection with someone. It ended up being the chief elder on Rosebud, and he invited me. We had long talks, but in the end, he invited me over there to stay with the family. He actually asked me if I'd taught woodwork before, and I said yes, I had. And so he got me to do a part-time gig teaching woodwork in their college. And I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I got paid for it without a green card because on the reservations they do their own thing, and
Mm,
it's legal, but they don't go through the normal government systems.
yeah.
And so this was like
Awesome.
uh,
That's
five
so cool.
5 months I was over there doing all this. It was just incredible, living, eating, breathing with these guys and doing ceremonies, working with elders. Um, yeah, it was just amazing. So that kind of set I guess you could say, the grounding for where I took my life from there. Um,
Yeah, that's incredible. And what a great experience.
mm,
The
yeah.
teachings that would have, I mean, they would, oh, that would have been just amazing. I can imagine that. And do you still keep in touch? Like, have you been back or?
I I have gone back several times. So every year to 2 years, I would go back. So the first time I went over was in 2001.
Mm,
Um, and then pre-COVID, um, I ran the last of my tours. So I was actually running small tours over there.
oh yeah,
Um, and um, it was only like maximum half a dozen people because you can't take a Greyhound bus full of people onto a reservation and it'd just be real casual like
yeah, yeah.
um, so it had to be small groups, but that was amazing in itself. Haven't been back since, unfortunately, but I'm hoping after this next trip to New Zealand that I'll be going over there um, and doing a little bit of work over there as well to not just America but to Canada,
Mm,
because I'd like to find a connection to some First Nation people up there too. Um,
oh,
yeah.
that's really lovely. And I had huge experiences as well. And I didn't get to a reservation, but I did get connected to what would be family of mine from past life,
Oh,
which was
beautiful.
pretty trippy.
Mm,
A Cherokee reservation, but the teachings, like it's talking about guidance and the guides that we have, there's so much, like I used to think that I was imagining a lot of it to start with, as we might do. But the feeling state was so true for me, so real, and the awareness, like every single part of me, every cell, every sense in me was recalling it,
mm,
and that's what made it so real. It wasn't like I was making up a story. It
yeah,
was too much for that. It was too in depth, too much, and the smells, everything. It was as if I was right there, right now again.
yeah,
And this the remembering, because it's not so much a learning, it's coming back into the knowing of what we've always known.
mm,
And that shamanic work for me was just so, oh, I loved it, absolutely loved it.
mm,
Being taken through so many things, just the connecting as a oneness with this world and nature, and
yeah,
the being. Ah, I love it. Just actually that you feel that connection, and you feel the love and the sense of that connection to even the wind,
yeah,
being you, that
yeah.
is you. And oh my goodness, it's just so. They sent me out one night. I had to go, and because I was always afraid of the dark,
Hmm.
because I had a lot of very dark entity stuff going on for me when I was a little kid. And it was, for me, I always felt hunted, you know. And once I got into what I do, I realized that they were probably trying to get rid of me or shut me down to it
Yes.
before I could get in there and do what I do, doing the same sort of work as you.
Yeah.
um, and there was a request from my Native American chief guide, and he said to me, go and sit up on the mountain on your own for the night or 2 nights or a night at least. And I hadn't done that. If I'd gone, I'd been with other people. I've never actually sat in the bush on my own for a whole evening, a whole night.
Mm.
And I was a bit on edge about it. It was like, ooh. And this particular mountain that call it a mountain, it's a big, big hill, but mountainous. And there is basically a UFO base as well. There's a lot of activity around the area, very many, like triangular lights,
Hmm.
moving ships. And you see them coming into the top of the hill and the side
Okay.
of it and all sorts. Like you
Right.
actually see them come out and go in and
And where's
all
this,
that.
in
So
New Zealand or America?
yeah, no, in New Zealand here, just
Okay.
out over the west coast from where I am now.
Right.
And anyway, so I went up there and onto sort of Friends Land and went right up under the bush there and sat for the evening.
Mm.
And I met the rock people and the flame people, fire people, and just all these beautiful beings that came out for me to introduce themselves. And
Mm.
oh my gosh, it was full on. I didn't sleep. I probably got about an hour's sleep in the whole night, but
Mm.
so much activity and so much learned. And the
Yeah.
fear, there was no fear,
Fantastic.
it was
Mm.
great. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And you just got to trust,
You have
you
to.
know,
Yeah.
really trust it. And I wanted to have always been, jumped in whenever any of my guidance said this is what maybe could be done next. I'm like, yep, okay, let's do that. No matter if I'm, to start with, it was like,
Mhm.
no, I just want to do that. Let's do it because I know there's going to be some amazing gold nuggets in it,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I fully believe in all of that. Trust it. I
Mm,
when I first started with all of this, I was a shocker as far as talking in front of people. I had It was very debilitating. I had trouble just talking in front of two people, even if they were friends. And
right.
I didn't realize this till afterwards, but what I was feeling was their energy, that they were projecting, not in a negative way, but
No.
just their energy, uh, wondering what I was going to be talking about or what I was going to say to them. And it's just that expectation sort of energy.
Hmm.
And then that would make me really nervous. And so then as I got into spiritual work, I had to confront this because I was being put into situations where I was being asked to talk in front of people. I mean, first of all, I would throw myself into workshops, running workshops where I'd have, 2, 4, 8, 12 sometimes meditation groups. And I just keep, and like I'm a bit of a dog with a bone, I need to, if I'm going to work through something, I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And so I would throw myself into these situations. And then I was asked once to speak at a spiritualist church, which was a fairly popular one. And
Mm,
I said, how many people are going to be there? And, da, 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 da. And they said, oh, it can be up to 60 people. And there were more than that um, because he did quite a bit of a write-up about me. Um, and yeah, that was that was a real shocker because this is where I had to really fully trust in my guides, and
yes.
um,
Yeah,
because
gosh.
I think I always knew they were there, but I don't know until then I didn't really fully trust that there was this supportive interaction going on,
Yeah.
particularly around things like talks, because that was my main fear. If I had a fear, it was talking in front of people. But what do they say? Death and talking in front of people is the two most feared things in human consciousness.
Yeah, I can imagine. I
Uh,
used to be terrified too.
and um, and so um, they had a talk with me in the car while I'm driving down to this talk, and they said, just trust that we're here. Make sure you ground your energy before you get up there and speak, um, but just fully trust that we're not going to let you down. And
Mm,
in a nutshell, they've always supported me. I've never felt let down by them.
no.
They've always been there, and the talks just got better and better.
Mm.
And now I'm sure there's people out there that know this, that once I start, you can't shut me up. So I
It's
can,
good though. It's
yeah,
a lot to share though, Matthew. That's the thing. And I know I used to get up, when I started running centres and things, and public speaking it would be in front of everybody there.
Mm.
And I'd have to write it out and put notes down on paper and have them with me because I'd get too nervous, I'd forget everything. And then I'd get up and I'd be so nervous I couldn't even breathe. And then I'd wave the paper and say, hang on a minute, and make a joke of it so that because I work with humour, I have to. Otherwise, I would have
Mm.
still been standing there frozen like a possum in lights. It was terrifying. And that was because I've been humiliated in front of crowds of people before. And it was like I just
Oh,
didn't
okay.
go there again.
Yeah.
Somebody might say something that's gonna,
Mm.
oh, so yeah, but I would bring the crowd into that and we'd all have a laugh and then I'd feel fine. But I'd heat
Mm.
up,
Mm.
but I have to fan myself. It's a terrible thing, eh? Fear, the way it runs in your
Oh,
body,
I
it's
remember that. Yep.
story we run in our head
Mm.
about it all too. It's what makes it worse. It generates it into being.
Mm.
But yeah, so cool. And so the ceremonial work and that you do now, obviously you follow that shamanic work. And
Yes.
just do you do sweat lodges and that sort of thing? Do you facilitate those or
I used to, haven't for a few years, but we have, I don't know if you have it over there, but we have a fire season that we can't burn open fires.
sometimes?
And
Yeah.
yep, so this is a permanent yearly fire season here in South Australia, and so that will be finished at the end of April. And I do have a sweat lodge that's set up on a property that I use, and so I will be starting to run sweats again. But a
Mm.
lot of the ceremonies I do can be very varied. Um, Anything from with small groups where, or even just individuals where they're wanting something in particular. I mean, I've actually done weddings. I'm not a, I don't, it's not, they're not official weddings, but they're just for those people for themselves. It's not
Yeah,
for anyone else. It's just for them.
it's just
And
ceremony. Yeah.
yeah, um, and uh, oh, helping people to work through letting go of relationships,
Mhm.
um, of a commitment to something, commitment to their spirituality. I've had people ask me about that. Letting go of a house that wouldn't sell,
Yes.
uh, letting go of businesses that won't sell. Um, and it's all about energy. It's just all
Oh,
about what they're holding on to, because um, when you own a house or a business, if you've got anger involved in that, or if you've got frustration, or you've got love, even, all of the energy that you've put into that over the years, there can be a part of you that's resistant to letting go of it,
mm, mm,
which really plays out in a real estate agent coming in wanting to trying to sell that.
yes.
Um, I mean, on a few examples I've had where, um, what would be the best one? A house that this couple were wanting to sell. They had already been trying to sell it for about 12 months, and they barely had any bites. And they had another house that they wanted to buy, and they took a chance and got bridging finance, which I don't know if you know about bridging finance, but it's frightfully expensive.
Yes.
Um, and uh, and they were getting to the crunch. And so they asked me to come in, and also their house had been used for doing a lot of spiritual work. So they were teachers themselves. And so what I did, I brought in my ceremonial gear, and I helped them to look at the fact that that love that was so much still there, but it was holding on to the house unknowingly.
Right.
At a subconscious level, it was really gripping on because they
Mm.
didn't know how this next house was going to go. They felt good, but they'd had so many years there. Um,
Yeah.
as soon as we let go of that, they felt really good. Within a week, and I'm serious, within a week, um, a real estate agent brought someone out. The real estate agents hadn't even had people that wanted to come and have a look. Basically, their energy was pushing it away, pushing them
Yeah.
away. So
Yeah.
it's mine, it's mine. Um, and uh, and so yeah, as soon as that happened, within a week, one client came, that fell through, but then I think it was a couple of weeks later, the right person came in, and bang, it was gone. So
Mm.
um, it's
Great, eh?
just about energy. And
Yeah.
when you look at what we're, even in the old terms of what a shaman does, and I know you've experienced this yourself, we're here for the community, or we're here for the people to help to keep balance.
Mm.
No matter where or whatever reality is influencing the community, we're here to help work through that and look at all of these different realities that can have an effect on life in the
Mm.
three-dimensional realm.
Yeah,
So that's what we do.
it
And
is.
mm,
It is. And that, looking at it like that and seeing it in that way when we're in community, whether it's our families or, even the family and friends,
mm,
it's like I know myself, I've been the grounding hub, you
mm,
know, and it's like sitting in that space, holding space basically while you allow, because it is allowing everything to
yeah,
be in its perfect place and time, but seeing how this is all playing out and just allowing it to play out to how it really needs to be played out
yeah,
for them to get what it is, to learn what it is, to move through, integrate for themselves. And that can be very tiring sometimes. And particularly now, I see it happening a lot, dynamically in families around me now and communities, even,
mm,
these, and for many years too, I have to say, I was working with, midwives and nurses and teachers, different ones in different communities that had been holding the light for a very long time.
mm,
And it was like this energy of this darker energy just coming in, and it was always there, and they were holding the light in it, holding space for it all. And then it became too consuming. And there
mm,
was a lot of time I was saying, look, just keep holding on. It's like it's all good, and we're seeing what's playing out. And then it got to a point where I'm saying, get out now.
mm,
Just get out. There's nothing more you can do.
mm,
Everyone's had the opportunity to move through what they needed to move through, and many chose not to.
mm.
And then it was like, well, they've made their choice. Basically, you have to just allow them now to move on and get
Exactly.
yourself out to take care of self, because it was starting to really play on people's health. And yeah, it was a push, and that was just in around the COVID area, really, and around then.
Mm,
It was like, no, you need to get out now
yep,
and just let it do its thing. There's nothing more we can do. Mm.
exactly. And look, one of I think the most impactful things that anyone that's sensitive needs to learn is that rescuing does not work.
No.
You give way too much of your energy because I always see, because I've been through this myself, I had to learn this one myself, that generally a rescuer stems from an inner child that is still looking for love. So we
Mm.
just keep giving, giving, and even when there's nothing left to give, we just still keep giving
Yeah.
to the point where it's detrimental to our health.
Yeah.
And so we need to be able to learn to maintain our energy at any time, but have really good quality, strong boundaries.
Mm,
Boundaries are such an important part of being sensitive.
they
Uh,
are. Yeah.
so it's, it helps us to stay grounded. It
Yeah.
helps us to live much more better quality lives.
Mm,
And also it tends to sort out the people that you hold close to you as well. The
mm,
ones that are always needy and looking for rescuing, um, we can't help them because
no.
if they're not willing to do the work themselves, then um, we're just wasting our time and energy and theirs as well. So,
Exactly. And
um,
it's really got to a point on the planet now with humanity where that is really crucial that we do not
mm,
rescue anymore.
yeah,
And I think people got to a point, most people I see have come into a point of they haven't got the capacity within them now to
no,
actually take all that on anymore.
no,
There's so much going on within every single being that nobody has that external capacity anymore to take on anything that's not
mm,
really required for them.
yeah,
So it's many and I see the dynamics of that also as those who have always been rescued, always been held, always been had somebody there that's going to help take them through whatever or rescue them out of it.
mm, mm,
They are now finding it difficult in the sense of packing, tanties, throwing tanty and being disrespectful to those that have done it because now they're saying no and they
yeah,
just can't do it anymore. You have to do this now.
yep,
And there's a big divide. Like I see it happening. It's more and more this divide's happening. Those who are not choosing to move themselves.
yeah,
What the bridge is getting wider,
yeah, very
because
much.
we are there helping to bridge them over. We've always been that, but now it's like there's a choice being made. And I just felt a few weeks back when I did that live around, it's time now for you to make a decision. If you're still sitting on a fence, if you're
Mm,
still walking these two worlds, it's time to actually make a decision.
mm,
I really had that pushing at me to get that word out there. It was like, there is no more time to muck around now. These
mm,
timelines, in a sense, if we want to call them, that's the only way we can describe it really for people to get, I think.
yeah,
But dimensionally now, these timelines are really shifting apart. And yeah,
it's
so
having a huge impact on us, these timelines, and what I'm finding also is a lot of timelines are intersecting where the
mm,
synchronicity starts to kick in more on a
yeah,
positive level.
yeah,
And it's amazing the experiences some of my clients are having, and I've had too, where all of a sudden, and this is with very grounded people,
yeah,
they just phase out for a few minutes because it's like they're just not here,
yeah,
and you feel that when you're going through this. And what I'm finding is as much as this is a word that's been probably overly used, the veil between realities is just it's almost non-existent now.
yeah.
Um,
I
and all
feel.
of these realities that we've got a choice to step through or be a part of.
Hmm.
The opportunities are there, and like you said, we need to make these choices.
Mm,
Otherwise, we're somewhere in between, and that's that vagueness, that
yes.
feeling out of it. And
Yeah.
but this is being felt more and more by people, and but
Yeah, it is.
humans are habitual creatures, and
Mhm.
it's very difficult for us to change unless we've got good advice around us, or if we've had experiences in what that change can offer. Because
Mm.
even when things are bad, uh, it we feel more comfortable being in a bad way if
Yeah.
we haven't experienced anything else. It's
Yes.
part of our nature.
It is. It is. And it's the hype of I remember when a spirit was showing me or guidance was showing me that we were going to go through all the density and then we come into a flat line. And I said, but that's death. Yes, they said. And I said, so what? We just get through all this caca here and then we're off. I said, that's a bit shit. Being here just for that, and then we're off into the next thing. But it was
Yeah.
like, no, we're going to be there. We'll be in flatline, and then we move into the higher emotional space or feeling state of higher heart. And okay. And in that limbo state, that letting, the flat line,
Mm.
I said to them, but that how like is that going to be boring being in all this fluffy, yummy stuff, because we're so used to all the drama down here. That won't that be boring? And they just laugh. But and I get it. I mean, gosh, been in this space here for, and you ping in and out, of course,
Mm.
until your threads are all finished up with and all that. But in that space is just so beautiful. It's like
Mm.
being in this absolute, like on the cruise ship, just on the deck, cruising it for
Mm.
after having all this turmoil down here forever and ever and ever, running such heightened emotional states.
Yeah.
This is just such a blissful place when you allow it to be and you live really in that moment and allow, like you're saying, all those opportunities and all the everything is in this moment, and you get that in that space.
Mm.
And more now with, like you say, the veil,
Mm.
not there anymore. It's sort of, I totally get that. It is so, everything is right here, right now.
Mm. Mm.
And even to travel in the sense like when I'm tracking, to see where a soul's going or a spirit, the ether is moving through, in the sense of having traumatic nightmare stuff going on. Okay, where are they going at night? Even doing that, it's like I used to have to like actually travel, like it'd be this journey going off.
Mm.
Now
Mm.
it's like you just are there. It's not, and that
Yeah.
was probably how it was really, but it felt like you were going
Yeah.
through this density and all the rest of the stuff we needed to get to them. Now it's just right here. Everything
I
is right here.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think, and I've experienced that too. And that it's just, and yeah, all of the movement and traveling through to get to that end result of what's going on for that soul, um, is just us pulling ourselves out of this density, this lower
Mm,
vibration that the earth was in. But the earth, for the last 15, 16 years, has been constantly in this state of, um, well, energy heightening. Uh,
mm,
and this is apparently we're in a cycle where we've got another 80 years or so of this higher frequency energy gradually coming in.
mm-hmm.
But this is what they call the prelude to the golden age of humanity. And this is the
Yes.
1,000 years of peace and tranquility. And so we're everything that's going on now is all a part of getting to that point. And this is
Yeah.
where, we won't have to worry about money. We won't, spiritual growth will be the basis of everything that we do.
Mm,
Um, that we'll be able to step out of being locked into this earth plane with all of the, I've got a term I would like to use, but I won't on air. The rubbish that we've been dished out over the years by military, by politicians around, um, who we really are, and that we're a part of a much, much bigger community of beings
mm,
out there,
mm.
which is going to be far more obvious very soon.
Yeah.
Um, and this is about higher learning of our place in the universe.
Mm,
That's where we're moving to. But
mm,
before we can get to that, we have to move through the human shit. and it's so we have to start to change our, and this is what this high frequency is doing anyway, which is great. Because years ago I used to think, what's it going to take for humanity to change, to get out of this space of wars, bitchiness, uh,
mm.
being narky to other people. I used to hate that.
Yeah.
Um, but then this high frequency started, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is actually going to drive humans. You can't run away from this stuff.
No.
As our frequency heightens, we can't help but change or
Mm.
leave this world, you know. And
Yeah,
and so this is having such a huge impact on everything that we do. Like it's touching every part of us.
it
And
is. Absolutely. And
yeah,
there's no stopping that. I mean,
no,
nobody is going to be able to stop it. They can't.
no,
It's in motion now and the momentum's picking up. But the thing being is too, we might hear that it's 80 years, okay. But when I feel into how quickly this is doing it,
oh yeah,
and it's only going to get quicker, eh?
yes,
So I don't know, but it's going to be like a blink of an eye, honestly. I don't think anyone can really put a time on it because, you know, it's moving very
yeah,
quickly.
very much. And look, I've been really fortunate enough to have, this connection to guides, but also over the last, probably more concentrated over the last 15 to 16 years, I've had a really sorry, get that right, strong connection and close connection to galactic beings.
Yeah.
And I've been working with them, and the information that they've given me has always preceded that these things happen. A lot of the things
Yeah.
happen that's
Yeah.
already happened on the planet, and they've talked to me about many things that are coming. And as hard as this might be for some people to believe, they're talking within the next 25 to 30 years that they will be not just seeing like face to face with individuals in secluded places where other people won't be able to see them. They're actually talking about exchange programs with
Yeah.
humans where humans go off world and learn about the universe, where galactic beings are here within our colleges, and they are giving talks and all kinds of things.
Yeah, cool. That would
So
be cool. And
yeah,
I mean, really, this is my thing, and I know you get this, and is that they are already walking here, and this
oh
is all
yeah,
of us. It's all of us anyway, isn't it?
mm,
But what you're saying is they're not going to take on the human form. They're
no,
going to be able to be here in their true form.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
and I see that. I get that totally. And that will be a very different place, won't it?
Oh
No.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
this will be and this is all part of this high frequency too, is
Mm,
all of these controlling and manipulative systems that are on the planet, the
mm,
banking systems, political systems, military, all of those systems that have been here to protect us, which is all a farce. It's about keeping society in a certain way that we're
mm.
all just, each one of us is on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And that's all that are really wanted of us.
Mm-hmm.
And because this is a huge energy game that's going on
It
between
is.
humanity and these characters at the top,
Yeah.
and beings that are behind them too.
Mm.
And so,
Totally. And I get, you're saying about a lot of these things can't carry on any longer and people aren't going to be able to, they just can't play this out any longer.
hmm,
I, and that's very true in respect to also, there's been people in my life who have been a very much a part of the reptilian race and carry on, so they had a lot of that very strong influence coming through,
hmm,
and many families, many people, because they were here rampant. And when I went to work in with one of these, we went right back into the creation of, so right back to the point in time when these creatures, this race took over this person anyway and stepped in and had took control basically. And so for many, 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 many years and lifetimes, this person was under that influence, not who
hmm,
he was, but under that influence. And became more that character and that influence itself, so
hmm,
there was a fine defining whether this was actually who this person was or was it not.
yeah,
um, and what I saw and I see now is because a lot of that influence has now not been able to carry on,
Yes. Yep.
you know, we're seeing those people who were playing out the stuff with them or they had control of are now sort of changing face.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of people now who are changing their belief, their way, their whole characteristics are changing because these now do not have control, as in
Exactly.
one particular race of
Yeah. Mm.
uh, beings. But so there's many things that are happening on the planet that are very sort of intricate in a way of how
Yes.
this has all been designed and how it's been playing out that
Yeah.
is now breaking through and breaking down. And that's, witnessing all of that, it's been huge with
Mm.
just those around me, let alone the global, because
Yeah.
when they all came to ask to be assisted to leave, these reptilian, hundreds of them, thousands of them. And I was a bit taken aback. Why me? But there was, I realized in the years before all of this, I had been very much loving them. I
Mm.
started off with battle up, and going in to deal with some of them. But mainly I came into a place of just love. It was like, well, they
Mm.
hold love too. That isn't who they are. That's not all of them are like
Mm.
this, that have been taking over and creating this chaos. So from that anyway, there was a huge exodus of all of these reptilian, and they also wanted to free themselves and evolve. They didn't want to be stuck in this system, in this way that their hierarchy were taking them through.
Mm.
So it was an escaping from their prison as well. And
Exactly.
that was huge. And I saw Earth starting to transform from that time on. It was
Roughly,
big.
sorry, roughly when would you
I knew you were
pin
going to
that down
ask me
to?
that. I knew you were going to ask me that. And I had it all journaled on my other computer, and I don't know where that information, it never came over with my new when I put, but it was in around between 2012 and 16, in around that time somewhere.
Yeah, just prior to COVID, I found the majority of it started shifting.
Mm,
Um, and but it definitely started shifting back then. And that time was probably the time when I was approached by a reptilian being that wasn't from. So here's where we get into a bit of galactic stuff.
yeah,
Um, so these reptilian beings that have really been here, not in physical, they initially came in physical form to this planet. Um, Look, we're talking many, many years ago,
yeah. You
roughly
see them in
two and a
drawings of
half.
Egyptian time,
Yeah,
stuff like that, eh? Yeah.
roughly 2.5 million years ago. That's when they've told me that a mass of different types of beings were placed here on the Earth.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as the reptilian stuff goes, um, when they passed, their spirits, just like we have spirits that go on to evolve, their spirits weren't able to release from the Earth's energy because the Earth's energy was at a much lower frequency back then. So what happened was um, they were stuck here, and in that old way that they were back then, originally when they first came here, was really just parasitic way of existing. So they would just hook into someone's energy or a being's energy and just manipulate them to do negative stuff. They would feed off that negative stuff, and
Hmm.
the circle just went round and round and round.
Yeah.
When they died, when that person or being died that they would get hooked into, they'd move on to another one. And it was just like a regurgitation of
Yes.
different species that they were interacting with. What happened roughly about 2016, um, I was approached by this reptilian energy, which I didn't trust initially, but
Yeah.
he went on to tell me that he's not from that period of time. He's from
Yes.
current time on original planet that they came from.
Yeah.
And he said he talked all about this fact that they were stuck here and that they've been wanting to evolve, but they've been in fear of wanting to evolve, and so they just, like we're habitual creatures, they are too. So they keep hooking into humans. But he said this time was going to be coming when the frequency on the planet would change, which is 15 years ago, roughly. That's when it started to change. And this is where their ability to release from the Earth's energy would happen. And so it's not just releasing, they just could not hold their energy any longer on this planet because as the frequency got higher, it would rattle their cage too much and
Yes,
they couldn't stay stuck down in someone's body in
too
a
dense. Yeah,
semi-dormant state. No.
yeah,
So it got really interesting because around COVID, a whole lot shifted with these galactic beings as well that have been observing us. So we're talking about what back then was the Federation of Planets or Galactic Federation.
hmm,
What happened around that time of COVID and frequencies changing everywhere. So it's not just on Earth.
no,
They had a whole lot of well, not a whole lot. They had several different species of beings that were beginning to, let's say, show themselves for their true nature,
yeah,
and it wasn't of a positive light. So basically, like a dose of salts, they went through all of the different species that have been observing us, which were a part of the original number of species that were placed here on the Earth many, many years ago, which we're a part of and we carry DNA of.
hmm,
Um, and they were removed. Um, some of them willingly, some of them not. But then what happened is the whole federation took on a new way, and other higher beings were allowed to come in to be a part of what was the Federation, and now it's called the Galactic Alliance. And so this is the term that they call themselves now, and they've been watching us for millions of years while they observe our DNA integrating and all of the changes that are going on. And let me tell you something, they're really excited at the moment
yeah,
because they're
yeah,
seeing just how fast we're growing given the opportunity.
mm,
And a really interesting thing, which I challenged a couple of those beings on, was about emotions. They said that they'd let go of emotions and that they didn't work with emotions anymore. That was below them. And these weren't negative beings, but it was just because I had a lot of communication with different beings, I couldn't help but just point out what was seemingly
yes,
obvious.
yeah,
And what's happened over the years is they've realized that as they're watching humans evolve and grow very quickly, they're seeing how our emotions are actually helping us to grow.
mm,
Emotions of passion, of growth, of how we're changing, um, and how that helps to drive us to look for more. And so they're actually observing what they can actually get out of bringing emotions back into some of their different cultures in a
mm,
positive light. Um,
cool.
so they're observing from us and learning as well as we're learning and will be learning from them. So
That's
which is
awesome
yeah.
because I believe our emotions are our intelligence.
Mm,
That's so yeah, that's really cool.
mm,
Very cool. Mm. It's so interesting, isn't it? And there's so much like on so many levels going on that you just sort of like when I sit and I feel into everything that's happening within me, that's
mm,
around me as well. It's like there's just so much,
yeah.
and it's everything, and that's huge for this human body to physically, maintain every day.
Yes.
So it's really important to take care of ourselves on a physical level for sure.
Most definitely. Yeah. Very, very much.
Yeah.
And be looking forward to the talk. We've got a
Yes.
lot to talk about, haven't we, on
Yeah, I
Saturday?
know it's going to be great. I love it. So Matthew, you're coming out to New Zealand, which is
Yes.
awesome,
Yep.
and that's very soon. So tell us about your New Zealand tour.
Okay. So got my little bookie here in
Oh,
front of
good. I was hoping
me.
you would.
So I'm going to be landing on where are we? On the 7th in New Plymouth. Be starting there. So I'll be speaking at a spiritual conference in New Plymouth called Beyond Boundaries.
So
There's
7th of March.
uh, actually I'll be yeah, that's when I arrive, but
Yeah.
the conference is I think Friday night and Saturday and Sunday. So that's the 8th, 9th, and 10th
Right.
of
Okay.
March. And so that's well, it's just going to be about spirituality, basically, many different concepts of it. I'm going to be talking about personal growth, um, definitely about the galactic stuff that I just talked a little bit about.
Yeah.
There's a huge history with that, um, and that's going to be really great to have a large group of people to talk to around that. So
Mhm.
I'll be in New Plymouth for about a week and be giving free talks, meditation, one-on-ones, so counselling, trauma release counselling, and readings, spirit guide readings, and aura readings.
Awesome.
Uh, Talk on spirit guides on the Friday the 15th, level one shamanism. Then, and also I should say now before I forget that all of this is on my website. So Greenwood Spiritual Journeys website. It's got a whole section for New Zealand because I'm going to be here for well, there for 7 weeks. So this is the biggest trip I've done. Um,
Cool.
and then I've got a retreat in Waihanga. So that's in Otaki Gorge. And that's an amazing venue. It's absolutely beautiful, beautiful. It's like rainforest there with a river going through it. I'm going to be
Mm.
running sweat lodges, teaching shamanism. We've got a lady that lives right next door to the venue, who's a herbalist. She's going to be uh, doing a little bit of a workshop there, and also supplying us with teas that are all found locally
Cool.
from herbs. So really looking forward to her input and making a drum and a rattle as well. So so from there, I'm going to be going up to Levin and working there for a while with again more workshops and one-on-ones. Also teaching level two shamanism and medicine wheel workshop as
Yeah.
well. So that'll be fun. And then heading off to Wellington to do some work down there. So, but everything can be found on the website. Um, and if anyone's got any questions, happy to take calls or messenger or emails. There's a place on the website to send messages through. And yeah, happy to talk about any queries people have got. So
Mm.
I don't
Cool.
shut myself off from people. I like communicating. I think it's important with
Yeah,
this
me
kind of
too.
work. So
Yeah. Yeah. And don't you just I just love the people. Like I
mm,
just love when we do get into some conversation,
yes.
and their story, their lives, their insights. Everyone's got something to
Oh
teach
yeah.
us and to learn from. It's beautiful. I love it. I do.
Me too. Yeah,
Mm,
that's part of the reason I do this is just
yeah.
seeing, when I help someone and seeing those light bulbs go off and the
Mm,
smile come on their face and when you've helped shift some energy for them and help
yeah.
them to live again.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful
It
to
is.
do this. So love it.
Yeah. And lovely when they're intimate groups too, which I can feel with yours will be a
Yeah.
lovely intimate group. And yeah, it's special. And I think that sort of is what saddens me around everyone getting so big sometimes in their gatherings. It's like it takes that intimacy away, but I get why it happens. There's more people that need it, I suppose. But Yeah, cool stuff, Matthew.
Thank
And
you.
anything else that you'd like to share with us before we head off?
Oh, look, I think love to see you guys on Saturday because Mandy and I are going to be talking about a lot of things around how to maintain our energy in a much better way. Because one thing is, I think there are still somewhere out there people still looking for the norm to come back. There
Mm,
is no normal, I've got to tell you.
no.
Everything is changing on a daily basis, and we have to keep up to that. If we try to keep up to that with old belief systems, it's just not going to work. And you're
Mm,
going to, people out there are going to be impacted heavily by that. They
yeah.
have to be prepared to grow with what's going on.
Mm,
And this is part of the reason why depression is at such a high rate, why
mhm.
suicide is at such a high rate, um, and and also medication is at such a high rate,
Yeah,
and which is to see children at the age of 6 being medicated by psychiatrists is one of the worst things I've heard of
I
ever.
know. So
Um,
sad, eh?
they they just need new skills, new things to be able to do
Yeah,
too. Um, I've worked with a lot of kids over the years, and they're great to work with. And
yeah.
they're so, it's not like you can counsel a 7-year-old, but there are techniques, polarity work. There's all kinds of energy work that you can do with
Mm,
children that don't take a long period of time and
yeah,
have such a powerful impact on kids. Um,
absolutely.
but also sometimes kids just need new skills, particularly sensitive kids, to
Yeah,
understand that that sensitivity isn't a burden, which is
no,
what most of us grew up with, thinking it's actually a gift. We just need to know how to use it to
absolutely.
work for us, and that's the biggest thing I can think of.
Mm. And I find with these little children, the young ones, that they just want honesty.
Yeah,
Like they know instantly when you're telling kaka, when you're not being honest with them, they just so know. And then there's this trust issue that goes on,
Mm,
because they
mm.
actually know it. So to just be honest, no
Yeah,
matter what it's about, they get it. They're
yeah,
here to understand it. They've come in understanding.
mm,
So it's just treating them with that understanding and that truth within, and they'll be sweet as
exactly.
at many levels,
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I've talked to 7-year-olds with obviously with their parents there. Or normally it's the mum.
Mm,
Um, when it's been appropriate to talk to them about their guides that are there, even just one
yeah.
guide, just picking one guide out. And that it's amazing what just them having that awareness that they're not alone, that there's
Yes.
someone there with them all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and and it helps them to understand what they see sometimes and when they're
Mm,
hearing voices in their head, where it's
yeah.
coming from. So yeah, um,
Mhm. Cool, eh? It's
yeah.
very cool, and there's so much. Like honestly, we could talk for hours because there is so much, and
Mm.
it's just there's so many different dynamics going on at the moment
Yes.
that yeah, valid to speak about really and speak into. So yeah, but thank you so much, Matthew. It was really a beautiful honor to have you on and have a
Oh,
chat with you.
my
This
pleasure, Mandy. Thank you.
conversation. Thank you. And and yeah, we'll put the information for you for everyone to go to for your tour. And as we were talking about the Saturday night live that Matthew and I were doing this weekend, this won't be out by then. So what we will be doing though is more in the future. So just keep an eye out for Eminem, Mandy, and Matthew Talk Energy. Thank you so much, and
Thank,
much love, Matthew.
thanks, Mandy, and same to you and to everyone else.